Hey, I'm Sarah Tagander, international speaker and trainer for a $40 million division in healthcare. With over a decade of experience working with healthcare providers, I believe that a healthcare practice should do more than just pay back student loans. Each week, I'll bring you the tips, tricks, and experts you need to build your practice both on and offline. Smart people take notes, so grab a pen or open up the Notes app on your phone as we dive into the Health of Your Business podcast. We all have a bucket list, right, of those people that we would want to spend a night having dinner with. Well, I would have to say that my guest, who's on this episode of the Health of Your Business podcast, is probably one of those people that would make the short list for me. I met her recently at a conference, a Mindshare conference. Mindshare, which if you don't know about that, super cool organization put on by JJ Virgin and Carl Krummenacher. They just bring the most fantastic people all together for a couple of days in the health and wellness space, but you really feel like you're at a mix between the most fun reunion and party and dance experience that you've ever been to. Yeah, we do a lot of learning as well. And you're going to see that blend again when you hear this interview with the next guest. But I wanted to bring this conversation to the table with you because as a health provider who's scaling with online offerings, even if it's still that you're working in your office, but yeah, we all have some kind of online system that's even fueling what we're doing in person, like text message reminders or emails that are going out. We all have to keep up with the times, right? So whether it's a blend or you really are strictly only online, that's how you see your clients. You have group programs, you have offerings where you're coming together. We now have to think outside the box. I say this a lot that I find my inspiration for the work that I do in healthcare a lot of times out of healthcare. This probably isn't going to surprise you. I want that kind of inspiration to come to you. I want you to see what's possible out there. What kind of innovation is out there? And I really want you to read the bio in the show notes. I'm going to give you a little bit right here, but I want you to read my next guest's full bio because you are going to be absolutely floored with what she's accomplished and what is on the horizon still for her. She has a lot of information that she's going to give you. You're probably going to want to take notes. It's okay if you're driving or multitasking or doing something else, but take the time to make a note of when she talks specifically about rituals, things that she does with groups, things you can do to create that sense of community, that sense of belonging, which Belong is the title of her book that came out, which for me is going to be required reading for everyone in my group program. She's an entrepreneurial force. She is the CEO, Chief Community Architect of Daybreaker Plus, a global morning dance, music, and wellness movement that's in 5 continents. She totally has the accolades to do this because in the first 3 months of 2020, she toured with Oprah and Weight Watchers on a 9-arena sold-out tour where she opened every stop of the tour and led 155,000 people through a motivational movement experience with 30 dancers, musicians, and performers behind her. Wow. She's co-founded, sold, and invested in multiple 9-figure businesses in the wellness space, including THINX, the underwear company. I know you've heard of them before. She's a best-selling author, speaker, DJ, innovator, investor, mostly an investor, and most importantly, mother, that she says. And oh my goodness, her family is so adorable. She's really fun to follow on Instagram. And I can't wait for you to virtually meet in this podcast episode, Radha Agrawal. I bet she's going to be one of the people that you wish you had dinner with too. Radha, thank you so much for being part of the Health of Your Business podcast. You were one of those, I'm just going to put it out there and maybe she'll come on.
Oh my gosh. And here you are. Because you don't know that me and my kids have been dancing around our living rooms with you. So we've been hanging out and we've been practicing joy and we've been doing meditation. And I now understand totems in a whole new way. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go get yourself on a Daybreaker app because it's a place to be. So happy New Year and welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here. I didn't know you were dancing around with us on screen, so this is such an extra bonus.
How can you not? You're infectious. And what I really like is that you keep bringing us right back to it. And I have that sense where I feel like I need to show up, not just for myself, but for you and for the people that are there. And there's people there when you show up. And every time you're like, I can't just be the only crazy one. And you're not. And I want to talk a little bit about that because if you're listening to this podcast, you're a little bit of a geek just to begin with, because you love science, even though we like to hang out and have fun. But I want to know about why you think we are, I got how many devices around me. I'm a cosmic, worldly being. I have 5G. Why are we going back to these tribal foundations? Why is this so important? The singing, the dancing.
Yeah, I mean, dance is the original celebratory experience, the original opportunity for us to gather and connect and celebrate life. And I think, over the last 50 years, since technology has really taken over, we have forgotten that every single one of us is a dancer. And if you look back on our most joyful moments in our lives, they're typically at a wedding, dancing on the dance floor, or, at a party on New Year's Eve, or, some special dance floor place. And yet we kind of don't always put them in the same category as, oh, right, this is a practice of joy. This is just a party. This is just me having fun. And this is a nice to have, not a must have. And so it's one of those things where dance and joy, that whole space is so deeply connected to belonging. And so when you feel that sense of, I'm home on the dance floor with all these people that I love, there's so many different sort of scientific reasons for why you feel that way. And so to really distill that down and give people an opportunity to really unpack what dance does for you, kind of neurochemically, what it does for your body, what it does for your soul and your spirit and your joy. That's sort of what we're doing here at Daybreaker.
Now, if you're driving, don't dance. But if you're not driving, like just do something, right? I mean, then that's what people do. Can we sit and even dance? Do I have to get up and make
Absolutely.
it big?
No, honestly, frankly, one of my favorite places to dance is in the car driving. It's
Okay.
when you're just like, beating your hands so that on the wheel of the car, and you're just bopping your shoulders and moving your head and just like having fun. And I think that it's one of my favorite things is like when I actually see somebody, next to me singing at the top of their lungs, right? Like at a traffic stop. So I think you can really dance anywhere. I think it's just more of the kind of the spiritual barrier that we have to get through these days of like the I'm not a dancer moniker. I need to be drunk to get myself on the dance floor. I need to, sort of be in the perfect conditions to let myself go and be fully in expression. And I think that's the opportunity for the growth here. And I think, as more and more doctors begin prescribing dance and Daybreaker and all the things that we're talking about here, the more people will realize just how important it is for our kind of health practice, how important it is for our community practice, for our belonging practice, for our sense of self, for our sense of courage. Dance is also a beautiful practice of courage, courageous expression, courageous connection with someone else on the dance floor, right? Courage to connect mind and body together, to allow the music to move you. There's so much sort of beautiful benefits um, to dance that's not yet made it on the same kind of scientific playlist as meditation, sort of going on walks, breath work, or yoga. But it's about to be because we're launching a huge comprehensive study with UC Berkeley and the Greater Good Science on the science of dance and the benefits to your health and the benefits to your brain.
You go, girl. You want to go and like get something with those, left brain. I'm a doctor, so it needs to have the science. Thank you. I'm like, I will show you and up you. UC Berkeley science study.
Right. I think it's so important. I am a science geek as well. I come from a family of doctors and sort of like scientists. So I really believe also in the science of dance. I really believe in the science of joy and the science of belonging. I think there's so much gray area in this space that it's really fun and really exciting to be able to put kind of actual data behind each of these areas. And so I'm super excited to continue sharing those studies with everybody.
Yeah, you had one that when I heard you speak last, something about if you increase your joy, your neighbor's joy
You
increases.
got it.
What was the
That's right.
percentage? Was it?
Yeah. So there's a I don't want to say I honestly it's a figure that it's
I thought it was
like
30%, you said.
30, yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
it's 30 to 40. Yeah, it's between 30 and 40. I'm
Was,
going to be very specific, but it's
yeah.
30 to 40% more effective, more likely for you to actually spread your joy to your neighbor, to your colleagues, to your partner, to your family, to your children when you are in a state of joy. So if you are complaining or living in a state of perpetual anxiety, which so many of us give ourselves that moniker, I am anxious, I am, feeling stressed or feeling nervous, like words are spells, right? Like words carry so much power and so much self-fulfilling prophecy that if you orient to the stress and orient to the anxiety, you will actually spread that and infect others around you, which is why we live in this anxiety riddled society. But if you actually speak and orient to joy and actually live in the joy, live in what we all are, our natural childlike state of being, which is joy and wonder and curiosity and play, that is equally, if not more, infectious as the negative side effects of being a thinking, feeling, meaning making human.
Since you said that, I have been so intentional with my joy, and every day I feel like I have a responsibility to my neighborhood to be more joyful. So I just want to tell you that it's like picking up trash.
Yeah, and to that point, Sarah, and I've said it a couple of times now, just in the last first 5 minutes, what I really love about you, which is, you're not just showing up for yourself. You're showing up to serve and support your community around you. You don't come to Daybreaker just to serve your own joy, but you're actually there because you want to show up for me or the Daybreaker community. And the same goes to what you just said about wanting to be in more joy and oriented more joy, not just for yourself, but for how you show up to your community around you. And I think that's the piece that's missing in so much of self development right now because it's self development. We are so focused on ourselves and how we are experiencing life, how we are experiencing someone else, how we are triggered and traumatized, how we are, we, me, rather than my actions and my orientation is going to deeply impact the world around me. And don't I want to be an agent for joyful sort of service and support to my community and loved ones? And I think that's the piece that's missing from the personal development world, I think, right now, in the mental health world in general, that we really want to continue loudspeakering, which is we actually work on ourselves and our mental health to better serve and support the world around us. And I think that's the ultimate why of mental health and personal development is to better relate to one another. Yet we've forgotten that deeply important part of the why. Right now we're so focused on, I want to feel better, me, my. And the reason why we want to focus on ourselves so we can fall in love and attract someone more aligned with our values, that we can sort of magnetize better community members that align with our interests and our abilities, right? So it's that second piece. You have to go in to better go out, right? Humans are happiest in service of other people. Humans are happiest in relation to other humans. And that's the piece that we forget. Oh no, if I meditate, I'm feeling peaceful and now I'm good. I'm good. No, there's something still missing. What's missing? Oh, right. I'm missing the community piece. I'm missing the belonging piece. I'm missing the relating piece. So you can meditate as much as you want and find that inner peace. But until you're actually practicing that on the outside of you in relation to other people, you're never going to actually feel that ecstatic joy that every single one of us deserves, and that happens in collective experience.
That was beautiful. I receive that too as also a compliment and a little mini training and a training as a mom and all those things. So thank you for that. I have to just go on the other side though and just say, well, now though we have to Zoom, like you're bringing me to tears. I feel goosebumps, but you have a way of creating what you call a 5D experience. So many people are confused about this. So many people are just throw in the towel. They're okay, I'm going to record a couple of videos and send them out. And they don't understand how to create that community. I'm sure it's related to your 5D experience. Break it down.
Yeah. So basically, it's like, wow, there's so much here, right? But I'm going to just start with, a method that I developed for community building, and this might be helpful for your listeners. But it's a method. It's 5D in the sense that it's felt in every dimension of your senses, right? So all of your senses are activated. But I actually organized it under a moniker that I call the crawl method. And so the C, and it's an acronym, right? So I'll just kind of rattle down each of the acronym letters. But the 5D really, first of all, just to kind of zoom out with you for a second, it's like when you think about gathering, when you think about bringing people together, you're not just thinking about through the lens of how many RSVPs I'm going to get, how many, what kind of like, just like generic music can I play? But the 5D experience is like every sort of sense that you are inviting to the experience is deeply thoughtful and intentional. So how you're greeted at the door, what soundscape is there for those who are there in your experience? What is the taste experience? What is the culinary experience? What is the community toss experience? When are you gathering people in one circle up moment so that everyone can have a moment to connect with the whole group as a collective? So there's so many areas of the 5D experience that we can sort of dissect, but to just sort of give very simple, sort of simpler, easy to do that anyone listening today can just walk home and do instantly. I'll just start you with this, and then we can go from there. But so the C in the crawl method is defining your constraints. Thinking about the container. So the C, let's just talk about constraints and container, which is, what is the container that you're gathering in, right? Like, how are you thinking about the space, the container that you're gathering in? What are the constraints of your container? So Daybreaker is a morning dance party. So if you call yourself a night owl, which by the way, I changed myself from being a night owl to a morning person. There's lots of studies that talk about how being a morning person makes you much more successful, more optimistic, more joyful in life. So we can talk about that later. But the constraints of Daybreaker is that it's a morning dance party, right? We're gathering at a time of day when we have the most energy, we're the most joyful, the sun is out, you're getting the serotonin. There's so much beautiful sort of science behind daytime dancing, or why that's good for you to be connecting and moving during the daytime. So defining constraints is daytime dance party, morning dance party. The constraints are that we are a sober community. So if you need to be messed up to have a good time, this might not be the place for you. The constraint of that. The constraint of the music that we play joyful, we call happy house music. So if you're into kind of like dark, negative, angry, whatever tech house music, then that might not be the right place for you. So defining the constraints of your community, the type of community that you want to build. So if you're a doctor, the constraint might be those who are inspired by, let's say you're a pediatrics, by children. The constraints is children. The constraints is I want children to be more joyful. So we're not looking at traumatized children. We're looking at wanting to be in service and support of joyful children. Okay, another constraint might be, we want to bring dance to children. So like, where there's lots of other joyful practice for children, maybe this doctor practitioner might be prescribing joy through dance to children. Hey, mom and dad, play this joyful playlist once a day with your kids in the morning. I do that. I built so many playlists for my daughter. So every morning we do a 1-song dance party or a 3-song dance party, and we dance our way through the morning. So it's like that might be a constraint for a doctor, specifically focused on children dancing as a form of a wellness practice with their family, right? So that's a constraint. The R in ritual, and R in the crawl method is ritual. So defining the rituals of your community. In this case, if you're a doctor, or if you're a practitioner, or if you're a parent or whatever, the ritual might be, we always, when someone comes into my practice through the doors of my office, there's going to be some beautiful bell that's going to be rung, or there's going to be some, like thing that they pick up from a bowl that has a question in that bowl, or it might be, a little card that they pick up from a deck of cards that they get to sort of like while they're in the waiting room, they can read that card and sort of ponder the answer to that question. So there's so many rituals upon entering a space that make people feel so valued and thought of that most doctors don't, have not been trained to think about that in those ways. So it's like, what are the exit rituals of a doctor visit that can be totally new and different? What are the rituals at Daybreaker? Well, we have a welcome committee that hugs you on your way in, or times of COVID pays you a compliment on your way in. So we have a compliment committee. So when you're coming in, you're like, oh my God, Sarah, I love your earrings. They're beautiful. And this gorgeous top that you're wearing. Wow. I feel like a sense of joy radiating from you. And you automatically feel like great, right? And so our ritual at Daybreaker makes those who come for the very first time feel a sense of belonging and welcoming that they won't normally get if they're just entering a nightclub, just walking and looking around, wondering why they came in the first place and going straight to the bar to get quote unquote loose with a drink, right? So just like creating those types of rituals inside every experience is so important. We have a hugging ritual at the end of every Daybreaker as well. We do a group hug. We all jump in on the dance floor and shout yes together and call and manifest our dreams in that sweaty group hug moment. These are during, pre-COVID times. We'll bring that back again very soon. And then we have a closing ceremony at the end of every Daybreaker as well, where we have a poet or a pianist or a meditation teacher or a singer-songwriter share a ritual, a song or something beautiful in that ritual closing ceremony. So those rituals are critical in humans feeling a sense of belonging. The A in the crawl method, by the way, I'm going to quiz you at the end, see if you remember them. Okay, the A in the crawl method is your aesthetics. So like you're so beautifully dressed today for a phone call, aesthetics really matter in community. And yet most community folks, particularly, and especially doctors too, not to pick on doctors right now, but there isn't a sort of a training on aesthetics and design in medical school or in any practitioner school. So most doctors' websites feels very professionalized, very kind of cold and very uninviting in many ways, and not designed like a beautiful brand. Like it should look like a Nike brand. It should look beautifully thoughtful, art forward, and yet they're extremely professionalized, very stale, and built like 1992 websites, right? Just like not beautifully designed websites. And so whenever I sort of give advice to sort of the professional community, like the doctor community, it's more just like, patients are humans too. They want to feel that sense of invitation. So aesthetics matter. Hiring someone I found a South African design agency. They charged me a few $1,000s to design a logo and a website and brand aesthetics and all these other beautiful things. So it doesn't have to cost very much, but it has to be something that you intentionally think about bringing to your practice, and to really think about the right person to execute it. Not just the cheapest person that you find on the internet, but it wants to be someone who can really kind of translate you and your values onto a website that really tells your story, into a video that really makes you look much more than just like you static on a video screen being like, hello, I am, which most doctor websites I notice do. It's just like very professional, very, can just be so much more creative, so much more imaginative, so much more aesthetically driven, right?
Relatable.
And relatable, exactly, relatable. So again, not to pick on practitioners or doctors, but I just think that there's so much beauty in the work that you do in the mastery of your art and science, that the aesthetics of your design should really reflect that. The W in the crawl method is your why. Why are you the right person to lead this community? Why is this community viable, and stands on its own? Why is this community financially viable over time? Why is this community a community that people want to follow and be a part of? So really taking the time, I have these questions in my book as well. But I think so often people in the community space don't often think or wonder if they are the right person to lead the community. They just want to do it, so they do it without necessarily being the most charismatic person to lead the community. Maybe they're a better number two. Maybe they're better at organizing logistics and making sure that the right, container is being created, but they might not necessarily be the right face or the right voice for a community, without the right training, let's say, or it might be better, faster if you paired up with someone who was a face or voice for your community. So I think people forget kind of optics, and if someone is just more quiet and has an energy that is not quite so big and sort of forward facing, it's important to know your role in your community and where you belong and how you add deep value. At on our Daybreaker team, you know, each one of us plays such a vital role in our role. I couldn't do what my COO does. I couldn't do what my CRO does. I couldn't do what the just different people on my team do. And so we really own our lanes, and it's so important for community leaders to know what their lane is. Okay, design might not be your lane. Find someone else where it is your lane, right? Leading charismatically a community might not necessarily be your lane today, though you can work on it. But let's find someone else to bring in, like, to really bring people in. I have a friend, just a quick side story, who's a chief evangelist for the chief innovation officer of this huge public company. And the chief innovation officer knew that he wasn't the right evangelist to tell the story of the new product that they're evangelizing. So he actually brought in a friend of mine to be the chief evangelist for all the new products, just to share in a very charismatic, exciting, empowering, inspiring way about all the new products and services this public company was offering to their teams to be able to then sell it to their customers. And so I just thought that was such an egoless, professional, thoughtful way of executing someone's vision and knowing your role, right? So I thought that was really cool. And the last L in the crawl method is language. So again, what we talked about, which is relating, being relatable, connecting with your community. Language is such an important part of relating to your patients, or relating to people in general. And yet again, most websites try to be professional and try to feel like I'm important. So they forget the language of communicating with a human being. So to really think about who your avatar is. So our avatar at Daybreaker is a millennial minded. So I'm in my 40s, but like I'm millennial minded in that I'm, sort of more open, and I like emojis and GIFs, and I like playing, and I like, just whatever. And so we write to the language of intellectual, millennial minded, adventurous, a young professional or professional. That's sort of our kind of avatar for who we write for. And that's so important to think about. Who is your avatar at in your community, at your practice, in your life that you're writing for? So every email that I write, if I'm doing a family, I just hosted family Thanksgiving a few months ago, or a month ago, and writing the email to my family, I had to close my eyes and put myself, who is the avatar receiving this? Okay, it's my mom and dad and my cousin. So I would really write the invitation through the lens of the avatar of my family dynamics, right? So that it was better received by them. Whereas I'd write a completely different way to my friend group, inviting them to my birthday party, for example. So to really think about closing your eyes and meditating on who the avatar of the person you're writing to, so that the language, the L in the crawl method, reflects that avatar. And that's a crawl method.
Every time you said a new letter, I thought that was going to be my favorite, and it just kept getting more and more my favorite. I think one thing that I'm going to start to ask providers about is their rituals, their beginning and ending rituals. I'm really big on evaluations and making sure we achieved our goal, and can we check people off, but I forget about also including some kind of joy ritual into that
Yes.
well. So thank you for that.
Yes. And even like, yeah, it's like a wishing well on the way in. I'm just like, drop here, pick a coin from this jar and put in a little wishing well and wish for whatever health outcome that you want coming into this practice, So just like little things like that are
Yes,
so,
yes.
they cost nothing, but the intentionality goes so far.
My massage therapist pulls an angel card when you leave, and I'm going
Exactly.
to invite her to think of something upon entering too. And if she forgets, sometimes we get a little busy or chatty. I don't forget. I remember. I say every time, like, I look forward to that moment. And it's like the toy at the end of the Happy Meal. We shouldn't give our kids Happy Meals, but we
Exactly.
should give them a totem or
You got
something
it.
at the end.
You got it. You got it.
This is
And something physical, it's like, and I just wrote about this on my Instagram, about how physical totems in a digital world, they matter. They mean something. So you can pull a card and you can hold it in your hand and read it, and maybe you have to give it back, that's fine. But to be able to hold something tactile in your hand as a totem, and a physical tactile totem, is so meaningful today. And so at Daybreaker, we actually hand out cards, these beautiful poems at the end of our events. People sort of on the way, and then we read it out loud as a community. So imagine like 500 people reading a poem out loud together that connects to the theme of the dance party. And then they get to walk out with that totem to put on their fridge. And one of the things that my twin sister talks about is like, is it fridge worthy? And it's like the number of homes I've been to where I've seen our Daybreaker intention cards on people's fridges. It really shows you that, these meaningful totems make it on the precious real estate of the fridge. That's a good sign, right? And so to give people totems on the way out that they can then, that's not about selling you and giving you a coupon to the next thing, but it's just a poem for just the sake of giving to your community members. You're not making an ROI on printing that dollar postcard or whatever. But what that's going to do is going to make them feel deeply, just deeply cared for, and that's worth gold.
Right. You have so many methodologies that you have such a great way of being able to break down. I don't know if there's a question here. I just want to point it out and say thank you. I mean, whether it's your crawl method, your dose method, your book Belong has so many of these. And I love that your book is more of an experience with a lot of the senses than just a book itself as well. So just thanks for keeping us all interested in this content. I just, what inspires you to keep thinking up all these methodologies?
Yeah, I mean, as a community person, as a community architect, I get asked all the time, like, how do you do it? And I'm constantly working with different brands, clients, friends, new businesses around how they're going to build their communities in a meaningful way. And in fact, I'm actually launching a community building course, a mastermind, which I'm really excited to really give people a place to focus on that, because they can read my book, they can do the things, but not having a container to be able to actually take the time to do it, I've found to be the hardest barrier to entry. So giving people 4 or 5 days, at a location with me where we can do like a deep dive in community building, I think um, it's time. But the reason I'm doing it is because, if the world thought of community architecture and experience design in the same way that we did, think about how much more epic the world would be if you walked into a doctor's office and it was like a beautiful experience. You walked into a massage parlor and it was this. You walked into your school, you walked into a restaurant, you walked into a movie theater. I mean, any aspect of life, if we're able to if I'm able to distill what we did that's worked so well for us and makes our community members feel so cherished and cared for, to be able to then organize the ideas down, to then be able to share it and open source it so that anyone else can do it, so that my life is better net. It's only a win for everybody. And I look forward to the day that I walk into a movie theater and there's an entry ritual, or
Yeah.
I walk into a doctor's office and there's an entry ritual, and I get to sort of like have a little smile that maybe somehow it ended up in this doctor's, ear, and that they went ahead and did it because they read my book or learned about the method or came to my workshop or whatever it is. So I just think that the world will become such a more delightful, beautiful place, joyful place to live. And that's sort of why I did it. And the last thing I'm going to say just about, I'd been thinking a lot about joy after COVID, given how anxious and how tough the world has felt in the last few years. And one of the reasons we launched this platform and this community to practice joy and have now given doctors a place to prescribe joy and give their patients a place to go and be in community to practice these joy practices, and also find a community with whom to hold them accountable to their joy is because I just think that joy and belonging go so deeply hand in hand. Like, you can't experience the ecstasy of life, the depth and height of joy, unless you're actually courageously looking for community and building community. And so we want to give people a very easy button to be able to do that, and doctors and an easy button to be able to prescribe to their patients, hey, you seem like you're a bit anxious, or you seem like you have a bit of depression, you seem a little lonely, you seem like you need community. I'm going to prescribe you Daybreaker Plus to go and find your people, practice joy, orient your mindset, kind of organize your neural pathways to focus on joy, focus on releasing your happy neurochemicals. And this is a platform and a community to do that with. And so we launched it a year ago in beta, brought on a few thousand community members to test and practice on. And now we have a library of over 300 joy practices. And we have a growing community of just a few thousand people so far, but growing. Our goal is to get to 15,000 by the end of 2022, and just grow it quietly and thoughtfully. So it's not like exploded to millions of people right away. So there can be a sense of camaraderie as we grow and scale. So so that's sort of been the next step in our evolution, was building a kind of a peloton for joy, if you will, with a community to practice joy with.
And you're addicted to it, but it's also because it feels so personalized and feels so intimate. So you don't know that. I mean, it's going to be a big deal because it's produced so well. It doesn't feel beta. You've been around the block when it comes to this. You know what you're doing. You're so intentional with it. I loved that there was a quiz. So I came in and I knew exactly what I needed to do inside of Daybreaker Plus, like specific for me. So it wasn't me just fooling around. It was me really getting actionable results. As a type A, I need to check off the box. You gave that to me in that platform. And without hesitation, Radha, I would recommend providers to check this out and seriously consider recommending this to their patient base, to their client base. And also because of what you said, if you can't be that person that your community needs, go find that person that your community needs. And you don't always need that person on staff, in-house, on the team. It can be an affiliate relationship, a referral relationship. That's a beautiful thing. Just as important is who you surround yourself with, who you recommend, who you're affiliated with. And, it doesn't have to be that you get to spend almost an hour with, one of your celebrity crushes on Instagram on a Zoom for, this Wednesday morning. It can just be that you say, I follow this person that I'm sending you this way. Here's a website, go here. But also being intentional. If you're not watching this, every time Radha's saying prescribe it, she's doing the universal like pad of paper and pen where you're writing it out, because that is such a ritual that doctors have. And my dad is a provider and he's plant-based, and he tells people, he writes down on Post-it notes, break up with dairy, and hands it to them. And Radha, people have laminated it and kept it forever. His little Post-it note prescriptions of break up with dairy or sleep more or whatever he writes to them. So it's so huge to actually write it out to your patient and hand it to them. They will do it.
Exactly. Yes, I love that. I probably would too, honestly. It's like it's such a beautiful reminder. And then from your doctor, it carries a different energy too. And it's like the white coat, right? Like it carries such power and such symbolism and such significance for the everyday human who's going there to feel better. And so for your doctor, for the doctor to not only care for you to solve a problem, but for you to get ahead of it by saying, hey, you need more joy in your life, or you need like that. So we just onboarded 75 doctors. I don't know if I told you this, but we onboarded 75 doctors to prescribe joy to their patients. And it's been so amazing to hear their feedback and just how grateful their patients are to be receiving this type of prescription from them, and just how quickly their whole mental health space changes when they come and join the community. And so that's been really fueling my excitement to talk to, folks like you and more doctors, and just like continuing to spread the gospel of like the science of joy, right, is such a potent practice to be able to invite your patients to do, because it affects every part of the mind body, and the benefits to our organs when we're more joyful, and the benefits to our sleep when we're more joyful, the benefits to our just every aspect of our actual human anatomy when we feel and joy, our stress levels, even just like our appetite, just like when we're stressed, we want to eat more. When we're happy, we want to care more about our physique. There's so many things that connect with joy, that I feel like we're just scratching the surface on where this is going. And these first 75 doctors who've jumped on the bandwagon, like they will go down for me in the history of the first doctors to prescribe joy, in this way, giving them a place to go and a community to do this with. And I just have a lot of reverence for these doctors who are now taking a stand for joy as a wellness practice.
Oh, I'm so
So it's really, really cool.
I'm so excited for them. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the patients that showed up as part of it, and the movement that's just going to continue. So thank you for letting me be a part of it in passing out your digital business card here in this way, because that's how I feel about it. I just feel that this was missing. I had a lot of fun continuing to have fun with your community, with my family. And I want to thank you for that. And it feels like such a natural thing to be able to refer it, and to, in the work that I do, I'm excited to even talk to people. If you want me to help brainstorm and look under your hood, say, does Daybreaker even fit, with what you're doing? I'm happy to look at that. You guys know, I always put everything in the show notes. So you'll be able to connect with Radha and her team, to be able to figure out if you want to be a provider to recommend this platform. Check it out yourself though, because that's the best way to start. And you really have to say, I woke up and I danced on Daybreaker Plus. If you can't say that, then you don't know what you're missing, because it is quite the experience. So thank you. Radha, thanks for doing it too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for being for getting what we're doing, for not only talking about it, but for walking the walk, and for really sort of orienting to joy. I can feel it in your whole aura. I can feel it in just your being. And I'm just so thrilled to be in collaboration with you, and however I can, be of service to you as you share it with your practitioners and providers. Count on me as an ally as well.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I wish I need a closing ritual. I'm going to bring it back. I used to say to people, so we'll just finish with this one question. I forgot that I started the podcast and I got a little off my ritual, but it was 5 years. Where do you think you are, Radha?
In 5 years, I'm still doing this work. I feel like this is my life's work. I'm still spreading dance. I'm still spreading joy. I'm still really connected to belonging. But I think we've got a scaled community. We have hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people practicing joy. That practicing joy becomes a moniker that is as ubiquitous as practicing yoga or practicing meditation. That practicing joy becomes a daily practice for everybody as a way to orient to joy and to the possibilities of life. So I think that's a
You're the best guide for people on this journey too. And you make it really, you make everyone feel like they belong in this space. And that's why I'm sure you named the book that. So thank you so much for that. And I appreciate you. All right. We will absolutely talk soon.
Yes. Bye. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks so much for listening. And I want to help you have a healthy business inside and out. If you've been trying to market and sell your services and things just aren't clicking for you, then we'd like to help you have a major shift and feel completely confident in how you move people through a health journey. I want to invite you to take advantage of a special free health program discovery session where you'll work together with one of our coaches to create an empowering vision for your health business success. Find hidden barriers that may be limiting your growth. Feel the confidence successful health providers embody in their business and grab some inspiration for yourself to have a highly converting, highly successful signature health program. Head over to sarahtegender.com/work with Sarah to grab one of our limited spots.